Hi, I'm Genevieve Gaudet. I'm a service designer working on the social safety net. And I often talk to people who have found themselves in a government office asking for help with some basic need. And when I ask what brought them into that office, the story always starts far in the past. It starts with parents and children, military service, illness, moments of good news, and moments of bad, all adding up to the story of how they arrived here today. And they're often skeptical about whether or not they're going to get help, because over the course of those stories, which can represent generations of interaction with government, they've learned that help isn't always easy to find. This is beyond pain points. That stability and trust that it's possible are the foundations upon which government services, the front lines of our democracy, are formed. And those cracks in our civic life are long-standing, real, and urgent. And that is the broken state of our relationship with the people we serve. And the way that we work right now isn't enough to repair those relationships. We can't begin to fix this until we realize that in government, we're not starting a new relationship. We're repairing a deeply broken one. Showing what's possible has allowed us to anchor this young industry and gain incredible momentum. But what's momentum without direction? It's moving fast and it's breaking things, and I'm not the first person to stand up here and say that that's not going to work. We don't need to slow down, but we do need to take a critical view and align on exactly where we're going. If we don't, we'll harm people unexpectedly, we'll continue to erode trust, and we'll leave our collective success, at best, to chance. One way to counter that risk is to use the tools we have as technologists to ground our work in a long-term vision and hold ourselves accountable for reaching it together. And at Nava, we call that a service design approach. I'm going to share 2 examples of how we're putting that intention into our work at Nava, and then I'm going to challenge us all to apply them to our work and to the community we're building together. Our team at Nava was asked to build a core piece of a new program for Medicare that measures the quality of healthcare services and uses that information to reimburse doctors. This program intends to reform the healthcare industry, both in terms of controlling cost, but also in getting 34 million Americans the highest possible care. The API that we were asked to build would serve as the primary path for getting that information from doctors to the government. And that meant that our core users were an entire industry of product teams whose role it is to help doctors prepare and submit that information every year. And in our research, we found that many folks in the industry didn't trust that this program would be successful, because previous attempts at programs just like this have been confusing and opaque to navigate. In mapping out every step it would take to guide the industry through the first year of the program, we found that there were many steps for which we didn't directly hold accountability, and it wasn't clear who did. And our users didn't care who held the contract for which step in this long journey. Mapping this out gave us a view into the realities of interacting with this program that we never would have gotten otherwise. And most importantly, it helped us, as the quality payment team, make decisions that would allow us to provide a high-quality service across this journey. For us, this meant not just delivering an API and being done with it, but creating and moderating forums where developers could answer each other's questions, and introducing dialogue and collaboration where previously there'd been none. As researchers, it meant changing our practice to bring engineers into our interviews so that they could identify exactly where developers were getting blocked and create better documentation to support the industry as a whole. And it worked. It worked because we were able to take a step back and realize that we didn't just need to be technical architects. We needed to be service architects. And in stepping into that role as a program, we were able to hold ourselves accountable as one team for the outcomes, not just the contracts. Taking a leap like this is hard, but it's worth it if we ever want to repair the deep cracks in trust between us and the people we serve. And we were able to use a tool like this because we had a strong product vision, a result of the hard work of people like Yadira and Manoj at CMS, Lucas, Benno, Kayenda, and David at USDS, my colleagues Ivana and Mari at Nava, Caitlin and Micken from Ad Hoc, and the 344 government and contractor staff who came together to deliver this as one team. But sometimes, as civic technologists, we know there's room to improve our service, but we don't know exactly how we're going to get there yet. In our work on the Integrated Benefits Partnership, which my colleague Laura Roma shared earlier today, Nava is part of a partnership that seeks to radically improve the ways we're able to serve people who find themselves at or below the poverty line. This means improving the experience of accessing programs as varied as getting health coverage through Medicaid, help buying food through SNAP, or even help paying energy bills. We all know that this is a fragmented and complex ecosystem, and that complexity is captured in law, policy, different institutions, and a dense web of interfaces and paper forms. So the details then of how that radical improvement might come through in a product or service isn't immediately obvious. So our team, under the design leadership of the incredible researcher, my colleague Zena Nee, is creating radical prototypes that envision a radically different future for benefits. The prototype that you see here represents a future in which the silos across our safety net have broken down. It assumes that we've achieved wide latitude in the way we're able to share information between those programs, and it assumes that the culture of benefits has changed from one that is designed to keep people out to one that invites them in when they find that they need help. And we're getting feedback on that future right now. And this is exposing flaws in our assumptions as technologists about what would help. And it's reinforcing what we know about the cracks in the foundations of trust that this ecosystem will need to address if we're ever going to fully reach the big goals we've set out. We're building in an environment where the people we talk to share that they know exactly what the president thinks of them, no matter their situation. And if our goal is to create a more humane experience, then this work is active resistance. These ideas didn't start with Trump, but this is where we are. That reality doesn't escape the people we serve, and it can't escape us. We have to acknowledge the context that people bring to these programs if we're ever going to lay a foundation that guides them to the help that they need. When we decide to set the intention to focus on repairing the foundations of our work, and we use tools like these to hold ourselves accountable for getting there, we're able to take accountability for outcomes that extend beyond the scope of a contract. We're able to encode intention into our practice and into our industry. And this is my challenge to the community, to encode a deep level of intention in the work we do right now and in the way we work together. I don't share these stories or make this challenge because I think that this is easy. It's a privilege to do this and to ask these questions. But for so many of us, the desire to help people brought us into this room, and that should be the price of entry, but it has to be accountability if you decide you're here to stay. We've seen what happens when we ignore systemic issues. We don't need another Cambridge Analytica. We shouldn't have to wait for another harasser like Clay Johnson in this room to have these conversations. We must question the implications of our work and the implications of the way we work together. We have to be critical and radical about our proposals to improve trust in government services. If we get to choose where we put our energy and momentum, then I say let's rebuild generations of broken trust. Let's build better foundations, not better facades. The way that we work with each other, talk to each other, and hold ourselves accountable for the change we want to see over the long term is an investment in the foundations of our community. And we need to design that. You need to design that. Thank you.